we want to make it a little bit of a no-brainer. We want to give people a good night. We don't want it to be expensive, and it's got to be affordable. And you're dead right. There's a lot of juggling that needs to go into putting on a live show.
We kind of, we're fans, as Mark will tell you, so we're not journalists. So, and you know, we've both got a lot of the artists we took. We've got most of their back catalogues. Do we know as much then? No, but we know enough to kind of have a conversation. But we'll do some research.
Hello, everyone. This is W, host of the High Art on the Edge page. Host, not one, but two podcast features. First one, PCE, which stands for Post Concert Energy, and this one, Surprise Cast. We have some special guests in Surprise Cast land. Let us welcome Andy and Mark from Electronic Cafe. Andy, could you tell the listeners where you are podcasting from?
Yeah, so me and Mark both live in Essex, which is a county in the UK. It's lovely to see you, Will.
Lovely to see you. Mark, anything you want to share?
Not really. Thanks for asking us, and lovely to see you also.
Well, let's get started, and thank you both for being here on Surprise Cast. Okay, we're going to start off with an icebreaker question. Andy, this one is for you. Are you familiar with the word fan player?
Yeah, I work for them.
You do work for them. And I want to know this. How does working for fan player provide the skills that help you in the work that you do for Electronic Cafe?
No way at all. So that's a completely different part of my life, Will. Mark and I have grown up together and we're both massive music fans. So they are completely separate projects. So the day job is fan player, but everything else is with my best mate, Mark, doing Electronic Cafe, because we are both music nuts, I guess. And we haven't changed in the 50 odd years we've known each other.
Fair enough. Mark, this question is for you. If you were to write a memoir, what would you title the book and why?
Chuck me in at the deep end. What would I call it? Dave Ball's done Electronic Boy, hasn't he? He's done that already. So, I don't know. Music of my life? I don't know, something like that.
Right. Sounds good. We're going to really get into the nuts and bolts of this conversation by starting with a quote from a legendary Irish singer, Sinead O'Connor.
Love her.
This is from a great book called Rememberings. If you haven't read it, highly recommend. And this is what she says. She puts the record player on the bed, and every time she plays an album, she makes me hold the cover and read it out loud, every word of what is written on the sleeve and labels, back and front, inside and out. If I can't say a word, she helps me, pacing about the room like a school teacher. She makes me feel every millimeter of the record's packaging with my fingers and palms and even the sides of my face. If I don't do it slowly and touch every millimeter, she swats me. She's talking about her aunt, Frances. Andy, tell us that love for music, that love for vinyl, the hold of the record sleeves. When did that all start for you?
Probably when I was about 10 years old. I think I was given. So it's funny, my grandparents, their relatives knew I was into music even then, and I kept talking about bands that I hadn't really heard much of, or had access to, but I kept hearing about this band called Pink Floyd, and one of my aunts, when I was about, say, 10 years old, gave me a copy of Relics by Pink Floyd, you know, with Careful with the Axe regime, and that was the start of it, really. And then it all just fell into place, and I kind of detoured a bit, and then I sold my vinyl in the late 80s, early 90s, stupidly. So this really great concept called cassettes. What the fuck was I thinking? And then I went to CDs, and I've got to blame my brother here, because I took Mark to a Stephen Wilson concert about 6 years ago for his birthday at the Albert Hall. And we had a great day. We went for dinner. We had a really nice day, and bless him, he came to and goes, he gave me this, and it was a signed Stephen Wilson vinyl. And I wanted to swear at him, but also hug him, because Mark knows me, and for people that don't know me, I'm all or nothing. I can't do things by halves. I looked at it, I went, you fucker, do you know what you've done? And that was it. I was online buying vinyl again. And as you can see behind me, it's everywhere. It's just so yeah. So I can't thank Mark enough, but my wife won't. But that's it. And he's right. You know, I shouldn't have sold what I had. I mean, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, mate. You probably got most of your stuff from back then, which I'm incredibly jealous of. I had to rebuy most of it, but the love has never gone. And even now, I mean, we've both got decent hi-fis, and that even that little crack and pop when they put, and as you say, you hold the cover and you embrace it. It's the best thing in the world.
Mark, let's add to these good vibes and sentiments about the vinyl, the turntable, all the experience.
Well, it's really strange that you picked up on the Sinead O'Connor book, because I wrote down earlier today some of my favourite things, and one of them was the Sinead O'Connor book. That was one of our books, along with the Thomas Dolby book. I mean, I thought that book was jaw-droppingly amazing.
Yeah,
So it's weird that you picked that up and quoted from that book. But having said that, vinyl for me is tangible, isn't it? Yeah, with Spotify or with digital and stuff, you're flicking around. You're not really listening to music. With vinyl, you're making a commitment to sit down and play an album from start to finish. You're making a commitment to yourself to sit down and listen to a period of time that the band were at, a work of art from A to B, not just cherry picking the singles, listening to the songs. It's like an artist with a painting, or, you know, it's a period of time where they were at the time, where their heads were, and that's where the music they created. And for me, you know, as well as the album, the tangible records, the reading the notes and everything, it's just such a perfect medium, even though it's the most expensive and the most inconvenient type of medium.
Yeah, I'm into that, brother.
Inconvenient. I've heard that before. Okay, so Andy, for me, what really launched my experience into music in terms of record labels was the 4AD experience. I couldn't get enough of it, lapping, sponging it all up. What label really opened your world?
I'd say that was one of them, definitely. In fact, there's an artist I posted a couple of days ago. His name's Maria something, but she's on 4AD. And you hear this woman's voice, and it's perfect for that label. So that Cocteau's Mortal Coil feel. I'll send you a link to her after this call, Will. But, God, that's a really tough question. I mean, Some Bizarre Label was really poignant for both Mark and I when that album first came out, because that album that launched Blancmange, Depeche, B-Movie, Soft Cell, you know, it was amazing. But I guess over the period, probably Mute is right up there as one of my favourite labels. You know, A Certain Ratio, obviously Depeche, etc. And, you know, we know Zoe Miller over at Mute. She does a great job of putting out stuff and telling us what's going on. But yeah, it's probably, and again, Mark's probably thinking, actually, if you're going to ask Mark the same question, I'll stop there, because I know exactly who he's going to name afterwards. So, but yeah, they're the Factory, obviously Factory Records was.
Mark, what about for you? Excuse me, what label for you really opened your ears?
Well, you know, Some Bizarre was pivotal for me. New Records was pivotal for me. But the only other one was probably ZTT.
Yeah, good shout.
I mean, yeah, with all the Frankie stuff on it and the Art of Noise and the propaganda stuff on there, it was just like, you know, that was a phenomenal record label.
Who turned you on to that record label? Was that you, or was that someone else?
Well, you know, I think it was definitely me. I mean, it was probably Frankie, because, you know, at the time, it wasn't normal for bands to bring out remix after remix after remix of all the songs that were in the charts. And I think that, you know, Trevor Horn, what he was doing in that studio at that time was groundbreaking, with the Fairlight synthesizers and all the technology. And obviously, you had the brilliant Secret Wish album from Propaganda, which came out at the same time. And then you had, you know, the Art of Noise followed that, and all the production for ABC and all that lush sound. I mean, it really was it was the sound of the 80s, really.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's move into Electronic Cafe. Andy, this question is for you. Tell me 2 to 3 elements that characterize your friendship with Mark.
God, I would say we have our humour, passion for music, I think, is unmatched. And that quest, really, I guess, to keep finding new stuff. Because I think I can say this on behalf of both of us, really. It's really, I think the real reward is when just normal people write on our YouTube channels and with certain programs and say, God, I thought music today was crap. You've changed my mind. That to me that's mission accomplished, right? Or I think one we did when we do our top 30 albums of the year, was someone quoted, I don't know where you find this stuff, and excuse my language, I'm just repeating, it's fucking amazing. I was like, great. And he said, I need to have a serious argument with my Spotify algorithm. So I turned around to my brother here and said, and that's why we're doing this. So that I guess that, you know, I've kind of accept that, probably expanded on your question, buddy. But I mean, one, we've grown up forever together, and you know, he is my brother from another mother, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And we both obsessed about music. So you know, and we're the guys that used to be in the cars playing bits of new stuff to people all the time, because we say, and we just kind of amplified that with the YouTube channel. You know, we're always those guys going, check this out. And me more so, Mark's a little bit more reserved in that respect. Without that, got the same passion, but I want everyone to hear it, and I'm probably getting a lot of people's nerves. But I just think this stuff's so good, you know, and and Mark feels the same. So that's the thing that drives us, I think.
So, Mark, when you guys started Electronic Cafe, did you talk about any goals and/or objectives?
No, it was the maddest decision ever, because, you know, as Andy said, we've always shared like songs and have you heard this and have a listen to this, and we've always done it. I mean, even when we were in bands, driving to the studio, it was like changing tapes. So have you heard this? Have you heard that? So what we're doing now is really a progression from what we've always done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both got, busy day jobs, and you know, the Electronic Cafe had no agenda, nothing in it. We just both started watching these review channels on YouTube. We both kind of come up with the idea around at the same time. Andy said to me, should we do a channel? And I said, yeah, why not? It's like, neither of us had any time to do it. And then literally within 15 minutes, we bought microphones and we bought cameras and stuff. And then the first episode was like, the camera was on Andy's ironing board, and like we were sitting on the sofa, and we really we can't look at episode number 1 now because we didn't have a clue what we was doing. And following on from that, once we'd filmed it and we put it onto YouTube, me and Andy kind of had a panic where he was thinking, who wants to just listen to us two just going on about the music we're listening to? So I think we set ourselves 100 views or something on the first episode. It was something like that. And I think at the time we got to about 500 views, like pretty quickly. But the growth that we've had has been organic all the way through it. We've been doing it nearly 4 years now, 3.5 years. It's been organic. We've spoken to some really big names and people that we would never have thought that when we sat on that sofa, like day one, talking about Wolfgang Flür, we would one day speak to Wolfgang Flür, or we'd put on a show where Wolfgang Flür headlines. I mean, it's just bonkers, the people we've spoken to, and we've been really fortunate, and we're so lucky.
In fact, that interview that you did with Peter and Wolfgang, if people have not seen it, it is a must see. I love what you were able to get out as far as the conversation, the details, and really work that relationship that they have with each other, and two quality, obviously, musicians and people. So just a nod to you guys. Okay, so what I want to know, and what I'm sure listeners want to know, Andy, is give us a little bit more of the nuts and bolts and how you prepare for these shows. Because like Mark just said, you got some heavy hitters that you're interviewing.
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess that we kind of, we're fans, as Mark will tell you, so we're not journalists. So, and we've both got a lot of the artists we talk, we've got most of their back catalogues. Do we know as much? Then no, but we know enough to kind of have a conversation. But we'll do some research. I'll maybe look at a couple of bits and pieces I know Mark does in terms of just checking our historical facts right and creating a flow. And we try and make it as natural as possible because we want them to talk. And Mark's amazed that in most of these chats or interviews, I don't talk as much as I do when I talk to Mark. So because I'm going to give them space. But we check dates, check certain highlights in their careers or lowlights. And actually, one of the things we don't do so much now, but we did at the beginning. But I think it's because we've got a little bit more confident. We say, is there anything you don't want us to talk about? Is there anything you don't, we don't want to raise any issues? Because the last thing we want to do is fall out with them or create unnecessary angst for them. But I think what comes across is, I mean, I know I've talked for Mark and both as well. I remember when we got Wolfgang to agree and Pete to come on the show for the first time. Yeah, when Wolfgang's name came up, I said to Mark, "Fuck me, God's in the waiting room." It's just like, it's just like, holy shit. And we do you know what? It's amazing though, Will, is we've been, as Mark says, we've been so fortunate, but every single guest we've had has been so lovely, so funny. It takes all the stress or any worries we've had, because look, we're both fanboys, right? And we're meeting our heroes, like you said. So, I won't lie, when Andy McCluskey came on, or Midge, or Gary Numan, or Thomas Dolby, or Boris Blank, it was like, I was like, oh my God, this could go so horribly wrong. But because we've always been natural, they know that we're passionate, and they also get pretty quick. We know their material, and we're genuine fans. And we've had a few of those artists that we haven't put it on a show reel, but just so you know, and your listeners can hear, is we give them an hour max because we're conscious it's their time. But the amount of times they said, "Oh, I'm really enjoying this, keep rolling," and we're like, "What?" And they just, so I don't know. I mean, prep wise, yeah, we do research, but we kind of talk to people that we've loved their music, so it's not too difficult. And that's not trying to sound arrogant. It's just we genuinely care about them and what they've done.
But equally, we always have our set questions that flow.
Yeah.
But equally, if a conversation goes off somewhere, we go with a conversation. We don't just go question after question. We just roll with it. And a lot of people have left really kind comments saying, like, it just felt like I was listening into friends having a conversation, and rather than an interview. And we're not interviewers. We're not professional doing it. But I think we just they realise that we ask questions that are slightly different to the run-of-the-mill questions that they may get. I mean, the Gary Numan one, that part one that comes out this week, I finished editing it earlier this week. And, I'm a little bit biased, but for me, he really opened up. He was funny. We had a laugh, and it was kind of like, it was kind of like an interview that I'd never seen Gary Numan give before, just because he was funny. He was talking about his kids and his wife and just loads of stuff. And it's just, we're not journalists, we're fans. And I think they appreciate that, and they open up with us.
So thank you for sharing, both of you. And I would extract and echo those sentiments from what I see of your shows. There's a banter view feel to it. So let me explain. Obviously, you come in with the knowledge, the love for their music.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate, without announcing any names, I have seen some really amazing potential interviews with some amazing artists, but the fanboy gets in a way where it becomes, I want to show this artist how much I know from their B-sides and all that. And that's fun for like 5 seconds. But then we lose the human element.
Yeah.
And that's what you two bring. You bring the good humor, the fun, the knowledge, and the passion. So an amalgamation of all those things.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay. So tell us about the editing process. So Mark, it sounds like you do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me to edit a podcast an hour long, it could take 5 to 6 hours, maybe even more. So do you have a style, a method, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've got into a routine now, but I mean, you do the same sort of thing, but you get the video and you got the audio, and then we put snippets of the songs in and the artworks and all the animations and everything. I mean, some of the more complex ones can take 15 hours. We end up splitting. If we got an hour and a half worth of footage of an interview, we split it in 2, or with Rusty Egan. I mean, I don't know if you've ever spoken to Rusty, but I mean, his one went to 3.5 episodes because it was just so much content in there. But I mean, we want to put a product out there which is kind of like, professional-ish. We're not professionals, but looking quite polished. And yeah, it can be quite laborious sometimes.
Andy, I know there's so many surprise moments while speaking with your guests. Are there any that stick out in mind? Could be a comment, it could be like an aha moment that you remember from some of these shows where like, oh my God, I didn't see that one coming.
That's a really good question. The one we got some funny stuff that Mark always puts like a funny clip, but the one that most recent one that resonated with me was when Mark and I spoke to Wolfgang, Fleur and Pete for the release of Times. And I don't know if you've seen Wolf live, Will, but he puts on quite the show. It's amazing. And it's much more almost drum and bassy and techno and really dancey and amazing visuals. His typical German response, and I mean this with the greatest respect. So I said, Wolf, when Mark and I saw you live, it's so good and everyone's loving it. But have you ever thought about putting out an album of a live recording because it's so damn good and it's a much more immersive experience? And he just deadpan went, no. That was it.
I remember that, yes.
And I actually want to think about that. And Mark said, I'll consider that a maybe. And it was hilarious. And we've had loads of like that.
It was perfect. He just goes, no.
It's hilarious. So for me we spoke to Vince Clarke. Now, Vince Clarke, we grew up in Upminster, which was the next town on from Basildon where Depeche Mode started. So we used to see Depeche Mode before they were famous, before they were signed, in these really small clubs in like Crocs and Raquel's, these little local clubs. And we said that to Vince Clarke, and he didn't believe us. He didn't think we was as old as we actually are. It's kind of like, and right at the end, we said, oh yeah, thanks Vince, thanks for taking the time, and you played a big part of our musical tapestry. And he said, yeah, come back when you're old enough. So after all that, he still didn't believe we was old enough to have seen them in the early days. It was funny, and he gave like a little smile, and it was really funny.
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, we've been enamored with all of them. I mean, Andy McCluskey was amazing. O&D, he was hilarious. He was ungrateful. Neil Arthur, brilliant. I say all of them. Richard Jobson, I mean, from the Skids, absolute class guy. Raconteur, funny as, no bullshit. You wouldn't want to mess with him. He's fantastic. It's just absolutely brilliant. But we've been lucky, all the artists we've spoken to, Martin Ware, I could go on and on. It's just been, as Mark says, we have a lot of pinch yourself moments, Will, when we talk to these people.
So who actually reaches out to the artist? Is that both of you or is that just one of you?
It's between us both, and sometimes there's a bit of luck. So the Vince Clarke one, I was literally waiting for a client in the Soho Hotel to meet him, and Vince literally sat 10 feet to my left. So I texted Mark and went, you won't effing believe who's sitting 10 feet to my left. And he went, do your thing. And I went, yeah, we got him. So that was one. And then mid-year, we literally bumped into in Soho because he was going to come on, and we kind of didn't reply to our emails, and we bumped into him. He could see, he looked at us going, I know you guys, but I don't know why. So we introduced ourselves, and he went, I'm in Portugal next week. And I said, you're going to definitely come on? Yeah. And he came on. Yeah. And look, me and Mark will email. Mark will say that I've spoke to so-and-so, they're coming on. I'm not amazing. We both just crack on at it, which is great. And we haven't got everyone we wanted on. I mean, some people we're still chasing who will remain nameless, but we'll keep trying. Yeah, luckily, and because we've had some nice thing is that when we send an email to these people and say, well, so far we've had on the show, they go, hang on a minute, I might want to check these guys out, which is great. And hopefully it gets more people to kind of go, well, maybe we should go, and these guys look all right. So, but yeah, we've both been just pushing it all the time. And when we go to gigs, we are chatting to those artists. We hang around, chat to them. Like we saw actors recently, who I know you spoke to recently. So they're going to come on later on this year, which would be great. So yeah, we both are at it.
It's so exciting to watch this evolve and really turn into something so beautiful and special. And so, Mark, okay, so as you're gaining more attention and more traction and a wider audience, are you feeling a little bit of the pressure?
Yes and no. Yes, in so much as we want to grow, we want to be as big as we possibly can, and we want to give all our subscribers. I mean, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. I mean, we've got platforms that run parallel with it, kind of advertising what we're doing. So obviously, yeah, we're quite serious about it, and we want to give good content to people, and people are really sort of like buying into it. But we do feel a bit of pressure to maintain it, as well as, we started off just to give a platform to new artists, really. We wanted to speak to new artists that didn't necessarily get the platform, or, saying to people, have you heard this band? This is a new band, electronic music, but they obviously been listening to New Order or OMD or whatever. So the idea was just to be promoting like new music to give them an outlet. But then now we're kind of bouncing between new and sort of like established artists and that. I mean, we're in quite a good position, but you know how long these things take, I mean, the Numan one's been in the can for probably 3 or 4 weeks, and that comes out this week. And then we've spoken to B Movie, that's still to come. And we've got James Atkin from EMF still in the can, is still to come. So, there's a lot of good content sort of backed up, and we just want to, just get it out weekly and give people some really good content and perhaps an angle to an artist or music that they'd never come across before.
Has anyone ever said to you guys, and I say this with all respect in terms of asking this question, has anyone ever messaged you and said, hey, where are the female artist representation?
We've one individual who's done that, and I came back to them and said, well, we've had Jennifer Touch, Paula from Tiny Magnetic Pets. God, there's a few more I did mention, but I can't remember they are now. But yeah, we've had one person bring that up who will remain nameless, but Mark knows exactly what I'm talking about. But no, we haven't, fortunately. But we're open to. I mean, in fact, I'll be honest, I love more female voices than most guys' voices. So I'm, FK Twigs, your album, I love. I think it's amazing. There's Jennifer Touch. Mark knows I'm a big fan. We're big fans of Paula at Tiny Magnetic Pets. In fact, we saw her at our gig the other week. Kate Bush is my favourite female artist, period.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I just think she's an absolute genius.
Okay. That could be for another podcast. I want to read something to you guys. This is from the book, The Creative Active Way of Being, written by the legendary producer Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
He's talking about success. He says this: how shall we measure success? It isn't popularity, money, or critical esteem. Success occurs in the privacy of the soul. It comes in the moment you decide to release the work before exposure to a single opinion. When you've done all you can to bring out the work's greatest potential, when you're pleased and ready to let go, success has nothing to do with variables outside yourself. Mark, what do you think of Mr. Rubin's words there?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's spot on. I mean, success for us, it's definitely not financial, because we have not made a single penny out of this. Yeah, you've got to be happy in your soul. You've got to be happy to doing what you do. I think if there comes a point, if you do anything in life, and we're only on this planet for a small amount of time, if you do anything in life that is a real pain and it's not giving you any joy, you move on, you do something else. We started doing this because we wanted to do something else. And while we're getting satisfaction and joy out of it and happiness out of it, and we're meeting lots of great people, we're getting introduced to lots more music than we even thought we would. We're going to more gigs before. People are coming up to us and thanking us, which is kind of like, exactly the sort of the pat on the back and the endorsement we want. And that makes us happy, rather than, I think we've done 200 videos. We can't monetize it because we put snippets of music into our episodes just because we want to share it. If we come across a music we think's brilliant, we can't say to people, this is brilliant, but not play them a snippet of it. So we don't monetize everything. And I think in 200 episodes, we've made under £2. Not including what it's costed us to buy music, to go to gigs, to buy the t-shirts, to travel and all that stuff, and put on the shows we put on. I mean, we've just early this month, we just put on Electronic Cafe Live Volume 3 with Vicious Pink, who were the backing band for Soft Cell on Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret and Magnetic Skies, and we put Wolfgang Fleur on. we've got the fourth one coming up in the summer. Yeah, we've had great expense to do this, but we do it because we love it and we love sharing music with people.
I mean, the live thing, Mark makes a good point. The live stuff was to go back to what Mark's saying about we started this whole journey, Will, to talk about new bands. The first gig we had Beautiful Machines, Cult with No Name, National Milk Bar. All of them should be well known. Cult with No Name, especially, like 12 albums in, right? I'm sure you know them, but their last album that came out, the Electronic Sound magazine said synth pop's best kept secret. And me and Mark are going, well, why the fuck are they the best kept secret? Why aren't they huge, right? They should be massive. So we put this gig on, sold out, and everyone was coming up to me and Mark going, why aren't those guys playing Wembley Arena? Why aren't these guys? And I'm like, yeah, we know. We feel your frustration. That's why we're doing this. But then we went massively last year to Wolfgang, Mark Reeder, Tiny Magnetic Pets and Pete to Gal. And, it was a great show. And then, as said Mark Cerisi, a couple of weeks ago, we had Vicious Pink and Magnetic Skies, a band we really got behind and love. And then in the summer, we've got Then Jericho headlining with a great band called Office of Personal Development. So the crowds will see a band they probably don't know that well, and then someone they really know well. So that's a nice blend. So we're giving the newer band a platform, but also saying, look, remember these guys? They're great. I mean, Then Jericho live are amazing. So that's, as Mark says, we put all the money up front. So as long as we break even, don't care. Because all we want is people coming up to us going, you know what, guys, that was a great night. Thank you. Or I forgot how good that band was. Or I never knew these bands are that good. Or thanks for bringing us some new bands. It's an extension of what we do on YouTube, basically.
It's a wonderful extension. And Mark, let's go a little deeper into preparation for these shows. So how far in advance do you have to do all this work?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite involved. I mean, obviously, the artists that we want have got their own schedules as well. I mean, they've got tours and they've got commitments and things. Then the venues themselves, we obviously want to do we don't really want to do a rainy Tuesday night in winter. We want to do a Saturday night or a Friday night show. So it's availabilities of the venues in London, easy access for everybody. And that's got to fit in with the band's schedule. We want to pitch it at, we want to pitch it at a price. We always pitch it at a price where it's a bit of a no-brainer. We're tired of spending, 50, 60 pound on tickets. We've got we've got Then Jericho and we've got Office of Personal Development for like £25. It's kind of like ridiculous. So we want it to be a bit of a no-brainer for people to want to come. And then obviously the promotion, like we're not professional promoters and it's really difficult. The world we live in, it's really difficult to put on a show and get people to buy tickets just because, some people are, struggling to eat or pay their heating. We want to make it a little bit of a no-brainer. We want to give people a good night. We don't want it to be expensive and it's got to be affordable. And you're dead right. There's a lot of juggling that needs to go into putting on a live show.
With these live shows or the one that you just had, where was it held and when's this one in the summer going to be and where?
There's a place in London called it's a club called 229 and there's a big room, a main room, which is 600 capacity. And then there's a smaller room, which is 160 capacity. Now, Electronic Cafe 2-4, the one in the summer, they're in the big room, the 600 capacity. The one we did a couple of weeks ago was in the smaller room. And before that, the first one was at the Water Rat. So, I mean, again, organically they're growing. I mean, 600 capacity is kind of a big one to sell. And you really want to pick up, we're learning all the time and we want to pick artists that, sell tickets by their name. Then Jericho, we saw them at the end of last year in the O2 Islington. It was absolutely rammed. So, we're kind of quite conscious of the battles that, everyone's feeling, all promoters are feeling to put on live music. I mean, people might be even a bit more reluctant these days to go and see a live show. It's just so easy for them to listen to it on their telephones.
So I don't mean to ask a rhetorical question, Andy, but what makes a great live show that doesn't involve a Coldplay budget? And that's not criticizing Coldplay. What makes a great show, an indelible experience?
I think there's a few. I think obviously the bands themselves, their own talent. I mean, we've been fortunate enough. The bands we select are based on the stuff we love. And obviously when Electronic Cafe people come along, they know they're going to hear something they'll like because they love what me and Mark put forward. And also the people on our groups, they produce some good stuff. But I think just having the audience also makes it brilliant because they're all, you can feel the love in the room in these gigs. It really is. They're all there for one good time. They're all there to hear great music. As Mark said, they're coming up to us saying thanks. And we're like, well, no, thank you for coming. You coming, it means as much to us as you've seen the bands and putting it on. So it's very reciprocal. And it's great because the bands are hanging around. They know they can get signed albums. The audience gets signed albums or merchandise. And that all goes to the bands. We have no stake in that. We just want the bands to obviously make as much money as they can because we appreciate they've got to rehearse, they've got transportation, etc. But I think it's just, as Mark says, our brand's getting stronger and people are going, oh, Electronic Cafe, I saw that, or actually I've seen their channel, I want to go along. So it's, we try and just make sure that everyone has a great time. And that's based obviously down to the venue of being really supportive. I mean, we spoke to some venues who are a nightmare to kind of try and do stuff where we said, look, we're just trying to bring these really cool names that you'll make some money on this. But, the 229 guys were much more, they understood who we were. They understood the bands we were bringing. So they've become almost like the home for EC live events at the moment. So, they're great. But it's a combination of all that. As Mark says, easy to get to, middle of London, really good bands, new or old or more established. And the crowd, it's honestly, I would say that Mark and I will probably know at least 70% of the people in that audience because
that's a lot of love in that room.
Yeah, mate, there is. And it's either people that we know that are musicians themselves, people like Rusty Egan come to all our gigs, Dave Gahan's brother comes to a lot of our gigs, and they're all amazing people. And our families, but loads of our work colleagues and clients of mine and Mark's and would come along. So we know a lot of the people in the room. And as you say, there's a lot of love there. And that's what makes it great. I think it makes our gigs maybe a little bit special.
So when you go to the venues and talk to them, do you have the list of bands already in mind? So if they ask you, so who are you thinking about playing here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard from Ed.
So we've already got an idea for next year, but we've got the big one to focus on for now. So we're not doing anything until that one's done.
When's the show in the summer?
July the 5th.
We're going to end this conversation with one more question with regards to TV shows, books, albums, podcasts. Mark, let's start with you. Anything you want to recommend to the audience?
Podcasts. I'm listening to podcasts more and more on the commute to work, really. I really like the Gary Kemp Rock on Tours one. That's a really good podcast. Yeah, he does it with Guy Pratt, who's a bass player, session player. They've got a really good rapport. Martin Ware podcast, I listen to that one. That's a really good podcast. Books, I buy a book, but I also buy the audio book as well, just so I can listen to it easily. And my eyes aren't that great, so reading is I'm getting lazy as I get older. But I tend to be more autobiographical rather than novels. I mean, I read a lot of, like I said, Sinead O'Connor. So yeah, it's autobiographical. I mean, the Thomas Dolby book, I really love that. Sinead O'Connor book, I really love that. Nile Rodgers book, I really love that. And films, I'm not really a sci-fi buff. I mean, Andy loves sci-fi stuff, but I love the films I love the Pulp Fictions, the Schindler's List, the Shawshank Redemptions, those sort of really sort of classic films. Let Andy jump in. This could be a very long list.
Okay, Andy, let's wrap it up with your recommendations.
God, it's funny. Actually, I'm talking about books. The Mickey Bereni book, I don't know if you read it, but I've just finished it and that's amazing. I mean, she's lovely as well. I absolutely love her bits, but that's a great book. As Mark mentioned, the Thomas Dolby book is brilliant. I'm looking at it now, actually. I finished that a while ago. I'd say the MB3 Mickey Bereni album is, and I know Mark loves that. It's a great album. God, I'll stop on that one because otherwise I'll be here all night talking about music. Movies. God. Do you know what a film I love recently? Well, I saw it a while ago, but it still resonates. Have you seen Coda?
No.
So it's on Apple, but it's about a deaf family.
Won the Best Picture.
Yeah, mate, honestly, you're laughing 1 minute and crying, and it's an absolute work of genius. But as Mark said, I'm a massive Marvel fan, so me and my daughter have a special thing for it. We're going to go and see Thunderbolts on May the 1st, and we go and see all the Marvel films because that's the geeky side of me coming out. But I grew up with Marvel. So when I was a kid, I didn't have a Game Boy or a PlayStation, but Stan Lee created this amazing world of these amazing superheroes. And I just fell in love with it. And I still do. So, I still am a massive fan of him. So I'm a big Marvel comic fan. And they've made some great films. And I know they've made a few dud ones as well, but most of the stuff, if you just want entertainment, a bit of enjoyment, they're hard to beat, I think, personally. But I guess beyond that, favourite films, probably City of God and Leon.
The Brazilian film.
Yeah. Absolutely blew my socks off when I watched that. Because I had no expectation. And it was like, fuck, this is so good. Amazing. But I love Leon, with a very young Natalie Portman, I thought. And my favourite actor is probably Gary Oldman, who played the bent cop in Leon. I think he's an amazing actor. Yeah, amazing.
And it's got that great Bjork tune in it, Venus as a Boy.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an incredible movie. Okay, Mark, you were going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, the MB3 Mickey Pireni album is fantastic. But that led me back to listening to a lot of the Lush stuff, which I kind of knew but didn't know back in the day. I've got more into, what we do. We listen to a whole load of stuff other than electronic music. I've really got into a lot of dream pop and shoegazy kind of stuff since I've been doing this, because sometimes I need to kind of clean the palette a little bit and listen to some other music rather than electronic music. But, harking back to, Slowdive and a lot of bands that kind of were around, even like if you take 81, for example, which was the year for me that I really got into music. There's so many albums that came out in 81, whether it's Soft Cell, Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret, or Human League Dare, or Ultra Rock's Rage in Eden, or Duran Duran's debut album. There just seems such diversity of brilliant music in that period of time. And there's a lot of bands now like Gift from New York who are obviously hark back to, that sort of era of music. Blondie is still doing stuff with Blondie. I'm a big Blondie fan, still to this day, but very sad about Clem Burke the other week. I mean, I was quite disappointed about that, but there's lots and lots of great music. Gift New York that's one worth checking out. They're a really good band.
Great band.
Yes. And I'd also recommend Nation of Language.
Oh, we love that language. Yeah, we've seen them live. Yeah, at Coco in Camden. Actually, we got a lot of people coming up to us that night saying thanks for our channel. But I think their first two albums are one of our number one albums for the 2 years running, Mark. Is that all right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I think last year you picked A Certain Ratio.
Oh, yeah, and Humanist.
Yeah. And Humanist, we're the joint number one, the Humanist as well. I mean, Rob Marshall, Humanist. I mean, he's worked with Dave Garn and Mark Lanigan. I mean, he's just tremendous musician, tremendous album.
And a tremendous guy. And a lovely human.
I'll wrap it up by saying this. A couple of weeks, I'm so excited because Underworld are coming to San Francisco, and I haven't seen them in a while.
Wow.
So looking forward for them to play their new songs from Strawberry Hotel, which I love.
Yeah, I do.
And I'm kicking myself because I missed Kelly Lee Owens last month. Damn it.
Yeah, I saw her at the Troxy a few weeks ago. He's
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There's one more band. There's one more band which you check out. Plastic Estate.
Yeah, love those boys.
There's a band called Plastic Estate from Wales. Two guys, very synth poppy, really nice guys. Two albums. Excellent.
Yeah, we're big fans of.
Just wrote that down.
Do you think there's a bit of a Blue Nile touch about their stuff?
Yeah, it's a bit of Blue Nile there, but it's the tone of the vocals, I think. But I mean, yeah, they're really good, really lovely chaps as well.
Yeah, they are.
Love these recommendations. Andy and Mark, thank you so much for this really fun conversation. And I love the work that you've done. I love the work that you're doing. And I know you're going to continue to do great work and really champion these artists, the bigger artists and the not so well-known artists, which I love that hybrid, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do too, and you guys do a splendid job of it. I want to end with this final quote here, but none of us are going to respond to it. Again, this comes from Rick Rubin. He says this: what we say, what we sing, what we paint, we get to choose. We have no responsibility to anything other than the art itself. The art is the final. My name is W, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast. And remember this, everyone, great electronic and all other forms of music is around us. You just have to keep your ears open. Ciao.